Alright, welcome to another video. I was trying to get this out before anybody else, but I did sleep in a little bit. So it is July 26th, and we have the first patch notes for the Open Beta version 0.1. So this is the patch where LeBron James is coming, and we can see the note right here. He's arrived. We don't have any details on him. We will see that later today sometime when the patch is released. So there's a new free character rotation, which means basically if you haven't purchased a character, they will be locked out until you do purchase them. This is similar to what a lot of games are doing. Most notably, Brawlhalla does this. They rotate the characters that are free to play. So this time it's Finn, Garnet, Superman, and Raindog. Thankfully for myself, the characters that I do play mostly, I had to unlock at the beginning anyway, so it doesn't change anything for me. There is a new Open Beta Warp event. So gold earned from matches is increased by 25%, which probably means you might get another 2 or 3 gold per game. So it'll add up if you play a lot of games, but nothing too substantial. So here we have the nerfs and buffs. So there hasn't been too many changes overall, but here we have that Batman did get a few nerfs. They said that his cooldown was increased from 13 to 14 seconds, so you just can't spam it as fast, and it would come back with an extra half a second. So ultimately that means there's an extra half a second where he can't be throwing a batarang rather. So really not too big of a deal. And then they just fixed a bug for him, so nothing too substantial. Really doesn't change how he plays overall. Didn't nerf his damage or anything, which I like to see. Generally, a good theme is to be buffing or just fixing exploits, but not to be nerfing every character. It really does take away from a lot of the gameplay. So for Bugs Bunny, his startup window increased by 2 frames, which means that his up air will come out 2 frames slower, so you can't really use it as quickly to juggle people off of the top. The active window is also decreased by 2 frames, which means it only stays out for 2 less frames now, so you're less likely to get hit by it overall in terms of both speed and active window. With Iron Giant, they did fix basically only bugs. They aren't really calling these nerfs. So his down air attack can't combo into itself. You would see sometimes you'd be bouncing up and down off of the stage, which would result in Iron Giant accumulating large amounts of damage, seemingly for pretty free. So that is a good change, I would say. Down special, this is the one where he plummets to the ground with a big red explosion behind him. This would essentially pull down opponents with them and also accumulate a lot of damage. And the same thing with up air, you can't just keep doing it in perpetuity. And all of these are technically nerfs, but really they're just removing an exploit from the game, which really accounts for a lot of the skill check that you'd see in this. So Steven Universe, his neutral air attack, that is a nerf, knocks opponents up and away to prevent an infinite attack caused by alternating air down and air neutral attack. I actually don't know which exploit this was, but again, it seems like they're just removing exploits so much more than they are actually nerfing a character. Most notably, here we have Taz, which honestly needed a nerf, and I think they do comment on this right here. So the bug fix that they said is that they fixed a bug that was preventing Taz from doing any aerial attacks once he reached his air special limit. And you would see this sometimes when Taz would go off stage and he would just kind of fall after using his specials, which is weird because you do have a limit to both specials and air dodges, but you don't technically have a limit to how many aerial attacks you can do. And here are the nerfs. So what they say is, if you've been following early access, Taz's Tornado has been dominating his character kit and presenting a non-obvious knowledge check for newer players. Very, very true. It is incredibly obnoxious. By reducing its effectiveness, we hope to improve his gameplay health and loop and bring the game into a healthier state for new players, which is true. I think honestly you would see a lot of people rather, getting quite upset about that move if that was their first introduction to the game, so that's very smart on player first games' part. So they'll be removing one of the multi-hits of the Tornado, decreasing the hit pause of all hits in the Tornado, and I believe that hit pause is essentially what they're referring to as hit stun. I might be wrong on this, but that does sound right. And then they reduce the knockback of the final hit from 1375 to 1275. So basically it won't kill quite as early, still does seem quite powerful. And so their additional commentary on that is, right now our plan is to transition the Tornado to a cooldown move in an upcoming patch. The Tornado is Taz's signature move, so we want to keep it as one of his most powerful attacks, with the cooldown forcing more intentional use of it. These nerfs will reduce Taz's strength, especially at higher levels of play, so expect some buffs to the other moves in his kit in the near future. And that is very smart on their part. You don't want to just nerf a character like I mentioned earlier. You would like to balance them if you have to implement any nerfs at all. So that is good, and at least they're being very transparent with their plan going forward. So I have a lot of respect for that. And then finally, the last change is that they reduced Velma's weight seemingly by about 10%, which is pretty significant. So it said it was an oversight on their part that Velma was one of the heaviest characters in the game. This should bring her more in line with where we originally envisioned her. And yeah, that was kind of a surprise to me that Velma was actually as heavy as she was. You would expect characters that are bulkier, such as Batman, Superman, and Iron Giant, to be heavy, but when you have a character like Velma who's actually quite heavy, it is surprising. So, I mean, I guess they could have said it was because of her big brain or something, but I digress. Those are all of the patch notes for patch 0.1 of the open beta. If you have any comments, I would be very happy to hear them. And later today, I will be putting out a Finn guide. As soon as LeBron comes out, I'll also be putting out a guide for him as soon as I can understand the character. It'd be nice to have one of the first guides out there, if not super in-depth, at least an overview of the character. And again, if there's anything you'd like to see in future videos, feel free to let me know, and I will see you next time. Thank you.